Okay, in this video I want to give you guys a update to the original review I did on the Jumper T8SG V2 Plus radio. I've been using this pretty much every day. This is my daily driver radio. I switched from the version 1 T8SG to this one back at the beginning of April, so it's been almost 4 months now. And I can report that I haven't had any problems with the radio, no failures. I haven't had any issues with fail-safes, and I've been using this with mostly, or actually pretty much exclusively, FreeSky and FlySky receivers. I only have a couple of Spectrum receivers, so I don't really have too much experience with Spectrum on this one, unfortunately. But in terms of most of the FreeSky receivers, I've been using XM Plus, XSR, and a lot of the FlySky 2A receivers. Pretty good range and pretty much no fail-safes in the last 4 months. And of course I don't fly too far away, usually within 300 meters most of the time, but no lockouts, anything like that. In terms of, I guess, the way the gimbals felt when I was sort of complaining about them at first, they are very loose, and I know that you can open up the radio. I was actually considering doing that and tightening them up, but I eventually just got used to it, and I actually don't mind it anymore. And when I went back and I flew the T8SG, the original one, with the original gimbals, they felt very tight to me, and so I think I actually now prefer very loose gimbals. The other thing that I did is, as you can see, I don't have the original stick ends on here. I took these off of a FlySky radio. You can probably get some longer ones if you need to. This one seemed to be just long enough. The stock ones were just a little bit too short, I think. With these stick ends, I increased the stick height about 3/4 of a centimeter, and that was enough for me to feel like I had good throttle resolution, and the gimbal felt pretty good. In terms of the gimbal itself, no changes in the last 4 months in using it. Still smooth, pretty accurate. I don't think that it's changed at all. Of course, these are Hall sensitive gimbals, so they shouldn't wear out. And you know, this radio's probably gone through at least a couple thousand flights in the last 4 months, I'm guessing. Yeah, and let me just turn this on. One of the things that I think that I didn't like was the screen. Obviously, you see it flickering here because of the refresh rate of the screen versus the camera recording. But it actually doesn't do that when you actually look at it in real life. But when you actually look at the screen in bright sunny conditions and direct sunlight, you can't actually see it too well, so you have to actually cover it up or go into some shade to actually see the screen. Whereas I think the original Jumper had an LED screen that didn't seem to be as affected in bright sunlight compared to this one. Of course, I like the bigger screen and everything. The same firmware in terms of deviation TX on here. The original one, I haven't updated it, haven't had any issues with the firmware, so no need to go ahead and fix that when it's not broken. Now, in terms of the models I have set up in here, this is one of the things I really like about this radio. Is I do a lot of reviews on various models. I get all kinds of receivers, and I only have like 10 models set up in here. You can see the rest of these don't even have anything set up in here. And the reason is, even though I've bound this to perhaps 100 models, is that for each one of these models that I set up, I can bind up multiple receivers. So, for example, for this FS2A protocol, I have a whole bunch of receivers bound up to that, and every time I just switch to one model to the next, I can just unplug that one and plug in the other one, and everything will work. Now, of course, the danger is if you plug in 2 of them, they're bound to this radio, and then arm them both, they'll both obviously both armed, so you don't want to be doing that kind of stuff. But of course, that's my own radio. I don't have to worry about that. I wouldn't do anything that dumb. So, but you can do dumb stuff like that if you want to. And then same thing for all the FreeSky protocols. So, like I have this thing called FreeSky X. That's for like the XM and XM Plus receivers. I have all of them bound to this one model, and then all of the little micro D8 receivers are bound to this particular model. And then there's certain little micro D8 FreeSky receivers that output RSSI. I have them all bound to this particular model. So stuff like that. I like the flexibility of this radio. And here's one for Spectrum. And I can have all these different models bound to this radio. just switch to the type of receiver that that particular model has. And of course I have to set up every model the same way in Betaflight. Of course, if I set them up all randomly, then this obviously this system won't work. So you set up all the same modes and everything, and switches in the Betaflight configurator on the flight controller. It has to match with what's set up in actually the model here and the radio. So if those two things don't match up, then you're going to have problems. But of course I have everything matched up, and so everything works perfectly for me. Okay, so in terms of power, I've switched the battery to this Hobby King battery. Yeah, let me just pull that out. I think I might have the link of this in the original review if you guys are wondering where I got this. It just fits in this bay here where the tray for the 4AA batteries goes, and it's just it's kind of a weird battery. I just run it off the balance plug. Comes with this these two wires. So I cut those short and I just put some heat shrink on there. And this is just a 2-cell 1800 milliamp hour battery. I can, from fully charged, I can leave this in here, and I could probably do, I'm just roughly guessing, 100 to 150 flights. I don't have to recharge this battery for, I think, it really depends on how many flights I do, which vary sometimes, but for example, this battery's been in here for about 2 weeks now, and I think it's just below 8 volts. Let me just check that. Yeah, so now that battery is now at 7.95 volts, and I've been using that battery for about 2 weeks now. So yeah, I think using something of this size, you know, it obviously has to be a 2S, I think. I'm not really sure. Yeah, well, the balance lead is the 2S. I mean, you might be able to get away with a higher voltage. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, getting something about this size, it just fits right in there, and you get it lasts a really long time. If I was using the AA batteries and like some nickel metal hydride batteries, that would probably last me about a week, and then I have to recharge them based on the number of times I fly per day. So yeah, having something like this is actually really nice. And what's really cool is since I can just charge this off of a balance lead, I just plug it into like one of those B6 chargers, and I can charge up this battery pretty quick from empty. I think it charges it up in about an hour and a half. So yeah, I just have this one battery, and that's all I really need. And when the voltage gets kind of low, I think I wait till it gets down to about, I think around 7.4 volts, 7.3 volts, and I'll go ahead and I'll charge this up. So I don't wait till it gets completely empty. But yeah, having a battery like this really is useful for this transmitter. Okay, the last thing I want to report on is the Crossfire Module. I've been using this in my jumper. Obviously I set this up in one of my Tyrannuses, which you have to do because you can't do the setup because it needs OpenTX to do the setup and the binding. So once you've bound your receiver to this transmitter module and set it up in the Tyrannus, you can just move it over to here, and I believe it's just using ppm. Now in terms of latency, I really can't tell much difference between this one and say like an XM Plus receiver. Obviously if I fly this module in a Tyrannus using the actual Crossfire protocol, I think the latency is definitely lower, but since I don't really do racing and need that super low latency, I can't personally really tell the difference. I just wanted to use this for long range, and I can report that this has been working perfectly fine. I've done many flights with the nano receiver, the Crossfire nano receiver on the jumper, and I haven't actually flown this in a Tyrannus. I've only been flying this in the jumper, so couldn't even tell you what the latency is like on the Tyrannus because I've only flown it on the jumper, and it feels totally fine to me. The other module I'm sure you guys are wondering about is the actual FreeSky, the R9M. This does fit in the back. It does power on. I haven't actually flown with this yet because I still need to set this up. I think there's some firmware updates, that kind of stuff I need to do. So I haven't actually gotten around to doing this yet, and but I will eventually try it out in here. And I'm thinking if you want to, if you have this and you want to try it out, you probably just need to set it up in the Tyrannus, and when you do the binding, I think when you bind, you set the power to whatever power level you want, and then the next time it's powered on and connects to that receiver, it will use that power level. So you do the setup basically in the Tyrannus like I did with the Crossfire, and then you should just move it over here, and then whatever settings were set up will probably just transfer over since they're stored inside the module itself, and you can just use it. So because this just uses ppm or cppm, so I'm pretty sure the latency is going to be similar to the Crossfire on this particular module. But if you're wondering if it works, I haven't actually tested it, but I'm pretty confident that it should work just fine. So if you've been considering getting this radio, I would say, definitely consider it. You're going to probably want to try the gimbals yourself to see if you actually are going to like them or not, because, it's very subjective. At first, I didn't really like the gimbals, but I've gotten used to them, and they feel totally fine to me now. Also, the other thing is that this radio is kind of small in the hands, so if you got really big hands, you may not enjoy that so much. I don't do pinching, so I can't really report on how this is for a pincher, because that's not how I fly. I'm a thumber, and it's totally fine for me. I don't mind it being a small radio, but I do like the fact that it's lightweight and compact, and I can put into a smaller bag, and the fact that I can have pretty much every model in here. I don't have to carry multiple radios with me, which is a good thing when you do a lot of reviews. So for me, for the past 4 months, this has been my daily driver. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm getting the FreeSky, the X Lite radio that looks like kind of the evolution. I'm not sure if we're going to switch to that or not, because I'm going to need one of these multi-protocol modules to get that same functionality that I do in this radio. We'll have to see how those gimbals feel too, because that's kind of, I've heard those are also pretty small and also have short sticks. And then I'm also getting the Dark Knight radio. It's called Nirvana from I think it's called Underground FPV. So that's coming as well. So we'll have to see how those compare, but you'll have separate videos on those. I just wanted to give you guys a video on this particular one after 4 months of daily use, and I can report that I'm completely satisfied with the radio. It's been working totally fine. I haven't had any problems with it, and yeah, I would highly recommend this radio if you're looking for the kind of features that I've described here in this video. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.